AI is a very broad term, as Chris was mentioning earlier. But as we start to look at it and dissect it in this space, where do you feel, from where it's gone to where it's going and how you're utilizing it? And do you really feel like it's going to remove the traditional support and workforce, or is it really more of a complementary blend that allows firms to be a little higher from a compliance perspective, a little more efficient, but you're not necessarily going to, remove traditional workforce altogether? Is that a fair statement, or what do you think?
That's a fair statement. And definitely, it's not going to replace people. AI, there's a lot of ethics involved with AI and attorneys, so you definitely have to watch out for that. Where we use it more is in maybe communication with clients, not clients, communication with consumers who owe the debts. We don't really use it in the legal process due to ethical concerns.
Yeah, I've seen things where there's been a lot of errors with AI, with providing case studies, right, and research and whatnot, and then that being submitted and being a real issue for the law firm.
It really is an issue, and that's why you can't. That's why it's not going to take people's place. Maybe in 10, 20 years, they're saying these learning models are advancing so fast, but I just don't see it within the next 10 years.
Interesting. And Chris?
Yeah, it's interesting hearing that what I see, and that maybe the benefit of being around a little bit longer, watching how the AI is coming into space very much reminds me of when outsourcing was introduced into the market in the late 80s, early 90s. And back then there was the big debate between total outsourcing versus modular outsourcing. And where people really settled in on is the business owner had to keep their fingers on the pulse of their customers, but how do you take advantage of outsourced partners to be a better service provider for your clients? I see AI coming in a very similar way, where it's very grandiose speaking right now, but one thing they're finding, and you just referenced it, AI has really been, the tool has been programmed to satisfy the questioner. And so we're finding that the responses often are not accurate responses because it's trying to please you. So it'll make up a case that doesn't exist because it wants to please you. And that's got to be filtered out. Where we see it, and we just, DebtLink, we try to stay on what's going on across the board. And so we just came from a tech conference. And so there are multiple types of applications AI can be used in. Whether it is, as you mentioned, communication with a consumer who may be calling in, and it allows them to have more of a self-service type experience, but with a voice that happens to be AI generated because maybe they don't want to speak to a real human. But we see it from a compliance perspective. AI is really being used to monitor calls either actively or post-call to make sure all the components that were touched by that live agent were met from a compliance perspective. So in that case, it's providing a really great service. It's a training tool so from its AI being used from a training perspective has really been developed positively up to this point to, again, monitor calls and give a much more efficient way for that manager to train and stay on it. So from those places, the danger for error are less. Because they're not exposed directly to a consumer, but it's helping improve a process. But I think that's a really great example of modular versus total, which I think that's where we're at right now as it relates to AI.